Taking a break from my classic Doctor Who reviews to bring you an equally relevant and timely topic, here's a review for a Doctor Who book that was published in 2006. Because hey, why not?
I don't have a musical intro.
So, long story short, I don't really read. I've always struggled to read because I lack the attention span to focus on reading hundreds of words on a page. I don't have dyslexia or anything, it's just if I'm not engaged by what I'm reading, like school textbooks or anything, then I'm just not going to take it in. That being said, I was fortunate enough to score a good deal on a bunch of Doctor Who books, so I figured, hey, I got a lot more time on my hands, why not review them as I go? The reason I chose to start off with this one is because I remember absolutely loving the author's previous work back in high school, Winner Takes All. Heck, I remember reading this one cover to cover in a day. Like I said, it's probably not that much of a great achievement, but for me, in high school, heck yeah, that was impressive. The Stone Rose is a Doctor Who novel written by Jacqueline Rayner, originally published way back in 2006. Obviously, it takes place around Series 2 of the show's revival, with David Tennant's 10th Doctor and his companion Rose Tyler. The original cover is nice and simple, with a stock image of a statue and a nice kind of cathedral background. It must have been so tempting to put like a cringy Photoshop of the Doctor wrestling with a lion in the Colosseum as a way to entice people to pick the book up, but let's face it, that'd be the equivalent of clickbait because that's hardly an accurate representation of the novel. Still, beats the plain as reprint cover. These are always so boring. Anyway, I read it over a couple of days and each time I had to stop and do something else. All I could think about was getting back to it and reading more. What appealed to me from the start was the superb characterization of the main cast. You see, I'm only just starting to get back into Doctor Who. Before I started my classic review series, I hadn't had anything to do with the show since 2017. And yet, the exact moment I started reading about the Doctor's mannerisms and the unique way characters speak, it's like I immediately heard the actors reading their lines and it painted a perfect picture in my head. All of a sudden, I was immediately thrust back into this world I used to love. It was insane. These characters that I hadn't even thought of in over 6 years, all of a sudden I could see them and hear them clearly as if I was sitting down watching the show back in 2010. I must admit, at the time of recording, I have finished another Doctor Who novel with a distinctly different interpretation of the character dynamics, making me appreciate this one all the more. It's clear that this must take place quite a ways into their time together, because there's a real platonic love between Rose and the Doctor, an endearing camaraderie that really drew me in and made the ensuing tragedy all the more dire. So you've got the dynamic duo drawn to ancient Rome after Mickey discovers a statue of Rose in a museum. What ensues is a fantastic series of events that all build up this genuinely intriguing mystery. There are plenty of clues as to what's really happening, but when the truth is finally revealed, it's already too late, sending the Doctor into overdrive as he races against time to save the day. Proper thrilling stuff! I'll admit we could have probably done without the extended sequence in the Colosseum. Sure, it may seem like sacrilege to have a story take place in ancient Rome and not have an epic showdown in the Colosseum, but when it's all said and done, it didn't really add all that much to it, aside from a bit of action. In the grand scheme of things, it didn't affect much at all. Still, I was enthralled, page after page, up until we reached chapter 14, which is where we encounter what could be a pretty serious deal breaker. I don't really want to discuss direct spoilers because although this book is, 16 years old and I doubt anyone's going to be tracking it down anytime soon, I still don't want to give away everything just in case someone out there does want to give it a read. But for the sake of that one person, just fast forward the next 20 seconds or skip to this point here to avoid the quick, ridiculous explanation. Okay, so turns out it's a genie responsible for the goings-on around the place. Yeah, a genie. As in make your wish come true genie. I was really taken aback by that reveal. I always say you've got to keep your suspension of disbelief in check when enjoying sci-fi, but adding such a blatant fantastical element to the story really clashed with everything I view Doctor Who as. I'm not saying that you can't have supernatural elements blend together with sci-fi, but as far as I'm aware, that's never really been Doctor Who's thing. Like, it's just weird to me, the idea of supernatural or fantasy stuff showing up in what is very clearly a science fiction show. Heck, even when things like this have happened before, what with ghosts and such, they've always found a way to explain it somewhat with science, like, hey, those ghosts, they're aliens. Alien ghosts. There you go. And you just kind of buy it. I don't know how you feel about it, but for me, it was just such an unnatural clash. Like if Sam and Dean from Supernatural had to deal with a xenomorph from Aliens, or a genuine, actual celestial being just strolling through the X-Files. Now, eventually they do kind of just throw out a nonsense sci-fi explanation as to the origins of this thing. But even now, I still can't fathom how someone could have just invented a sentient robot creature that can actually genuinely grant wishes and manipulate space and time and astral project and affect minds. And you know what? Doesn't matter. I loved this book, and that one little element, despite being absolutely nonsensical, didn't ruin it for me whatsoever. I'll just accept that it's a major bizarre plot hole and move on. Because really, who cares? I had a great time with this over a few days. I've never discussed a book before, so forgive me if I'm not making any sense of this, but the author's writing style is so easy to follow and understand. It all flowed so well, keeping the reader informed as to what was going on and who was speaking and where the characters were. I just remember struggling to get through The Clockwise Man for weeks, but this was an easy read. Now for some other subtle things I'd like to praise. I appreciated the lesser reliance on things like the sonic screwdriver and psychic paper, the latter I don't think appearing in the story at all. I know I already mentioned how the characterization was on point, but I deliberately didn't mention Mickey until now. Good old Mickey the Idiot. He's a character I have never put much thought into, but now with the help of these novels, it's really helped me to get a glimpse inside his head and realize just how much of a tragic character he is. It's not played up in the show at all, but like, he is this guy who realizes just how lucky he is to have such an amazing girlfriend and who he knows can easily find better than him. And even when she does, and proceeds to disappear for a full year, he just kinda has to accept it and move on with life despite his feelings. I had completely forgotten that that was a thing that happened back in series 1, that the Doctor had accidentally brought Rose back a year later than intended, and naturally everybody thought she just went missing. And of course Rose's mother, Jackie, blamed Mickey for it. I loved Mickey's role in this narrative. He's not in it a lot, neither is Jackie, but it really does an excellent job at filling out the world of the show and shedding light on some of the characters that we otherwise wouldn't get to know about. I also like that cheeky bit of suspense right at the end, where a character is returned home and potentially forgotten all about the danger that they've been through, and innocently wonders, I wonder if Dad will be able to build me another magical wishing machine. Children are stupid. Look at me going and making an absurdly long video on an old Doctor Who book. You know, I started scripting these videos so I wouldn't ramble off for so long. But honestly, I think I end up talking more than I would if I just recorded off the cuff. Oh well. I hope my first foray into book reviews wasn't too painful for you. I know I enjoyed it. Again, I have no clue how to talk about books, so this was really just an experiment for me. But one thing's for sure, next up I'll be talking about another Doctor Who novel, The Feast of the Drowned. You can watch that video right here, and seeing as I haven't got a previous book review to link, I'll just throw up a link to my classic Doctor Who reviews playlist right here. Feel free to give that one a go if you're feeling interested. Thank you so much for watching, you're awesome. I hope my thirst foray. Oh well, I hope my first foray into book reviews wasn't too painful for you. It was very painful and I'm so sorry for inflicting it upon you.